Myself Dr. Megha. In this session, we will be discussing about the concept of strict and absolute liability under the law of torts. Strict liability and absolute liability is also considered as no fault liability. Why we are saying it as no fault liability? Whenever a liability is to be imposed, we are having in our mind that the person has done something wrong. He was negligent, he has committed some wrong, he has done that act intentionally. These are the things that we consider while deciding the liability. But no fault liability means that liability is still there despite of this fact that the person has not done anything wrong. He was not having any intention, he was not having any motive, but still that person was considered as liable for any kind of damage that is caused to plaintiff. So, what is the concept of strict liability or no fault liability that we will be discussing in our further slides? There exist certain activities which are inherently so dangerous in nature that may carry, that may possess, that transfer duty on the person who does so to compensate for any damage irrespective of any kind of carelessness on their part. So, if I am bringing any kind of hazardous thing on my land that is so dangerous that may cause any kind of damage to somebody else if they come into the contact of that thing, so it is my ultimate responsibility to take care of that thing. And if that thing goes out of that territory and cause damage to somebody else, then I would be responsible for that damage despite of this fact that I was taking proper care and due diligence in that particular situation. That is considered as the concept of no fault liability. The rationale behind imposing such liability is the foreseeable risk. If I am keeping such kind of thing on my land that I am having that foreseeability that may cause damage to somebody else. So, this foreseeability is involved, and this was first applied by House of Lords in the case of Reliant versus Fletcher. This is a leading case to establish, to explain the concept of strict liability. Let us take the definition of strict liability. It is a legal phrase that refers to holding an individual or any corporation accountable for damage or losses without the need to establish negligence on their part. Despite of this fact that they have not committed any kind of error, still they would be strictly liable for any kind of loss that has happened because of the hazardous activities that is being done on their territory. The idea of strict liability is widely used in disputes involving faulty products that includes inherent risk. As I have stated that this was first established in the case of Reliant versus Fletcher. So, let us discuss this case. It is the case of 18th century, and facts of the case are: there was one person, Mr. Fletcher, plaintiff, was a lessee of a coal mine, and Mr. Reliant, who is defendant, was the owner of a mill. He wanted to construct a water reservoir on his land. He appointed an independent contractor for the construction of the reservoir. The plaintiff had taken a neighboring plot on the lease and was working in coal mines. The workers hired by the independent contractor observed hollow portions in the reservoir while constructed it. Instead of sealing the hollow portions, they chose to fill them with mud and continued constructing a water reservoir. After the construction of that reservoir get completed and they filled the reservoir with water, the water escaping from the holes because they were filled with muds only, and that caused immense damage to the coal mines of the plaintiff that was in the neighborhood. The plaintiff filed a suit claiming compensation for the loss that is caused to him due to the negligence on the part of the defendant. The defendant claimed that he was not negligent in that situation. It was the independent contractor and his worker who did that thing. But in this case, court held defendant strictly liable because it was ultimately his duty to take care of that thing. He is keeping that much amount of water on that land, and if that water escapes from that land and cause damage to the plaintiff, then the person should be made strictly liable for that loss. So, this is how for the first time the concept of strict liability came into existence. By this case, essentials were given, certain elements were given for application of the rule of strict liability, and the first and the foremost essential is dangerous things. So, a defendant will be strictly liable if a dangerous substance escapes from their premises. There is no need to prove any kind of negligence or intentional liability that is on the part of defendant. What is dangerous substance? That is likely to cause harm or mischief upon escape. So, any XYZ substance cannot be considered as a dangerous substance. It is a substance if it escapes from the premises of the defendant that is likely to cause mischief or a harm to the another people. For example, explosives, toxic gases or chemicals, electricity, large volume of water as there was in the case of Reliant versus Fletcher, then fire and wild animals. Then second essential is escape. First one, that you are keeping certain dangerous substance on your land, and second one is it should escape. So, escape means that you are keeping certain thing on the land and it goes out of that premises, that is the meaning of escape. If somebody is coming into the territory, that thing is there in the territory, if somebody is coming into the territory and thereby suffered any kind of loss, then liability shall not be there on the part of defendant. Liability will only be there when the thing escapes. For example, when the defendant shall be liable, there is a poisonous plant on the defendant land, leaves blow out onto the plaintiff's land and are eaten by his cattle, causing thereby death, the defendant is strictly liable. So, you can see poisonous plant, it can be considered as dangerous substance. The leaves are coming out of the land, that is escape, then eaten by the cattle of plaintiff and thereby causing the death of that cattle. It is strictly liable, the defendant shall be strictly liable because two essential, that is dangerous substance and escape is there. For example, take it on the contrary, plaintiff's cattle enter into the defendant land and eat poisonous leaves. Here there is no duty on the defendant to take care who is coming inside or not. It is the duty of the plaintiff to take care of his cattle, that in whose territory he is entering, it is entering. So, in that situation, defendant is not liable as there was no escape. So, the key principle is no escape, no liability. If there is a escape, then there will be liability as it was established in the case of Reliant versus Fletcher. Then third essential is non-natural use of land. So, it refers to a special or unusual use of land that increases the risk to others. To have a pond, to collect the water is not a non-natural use of land. But if it is done in some areas when it may cause a risk to other people, then it may considered as a non-natural use of land. We may plant certain tree on our land, we may have flowers on our land, but if we are planting poisonous tree on our land, then it may considered as non-natural use of land. So, this is the third essential which may give rise to strict liability. Non-natural use example is electric wiring in a home, supplying cooking gas, lighting a fire, and if damage occur, then it will not be considered as a case of strict liability because it is completely natural use. And as far as non-natural use is concerned, like storing large quantities of water for powering a mill, that is considered as non-natural use of land. Then Again, in this case, few exceptions were also established, that if the person is made liable for strict liability, he may then go for certain defenses. There are total 5 defenses that were established. First one is default of the plaintiff. It is also called as contributory negligence. That was there in the case of, as we have just discussed, the illustration of poisonous tree, where the plaintiff's horse jumps into the territory of defendant and eat that poisonous tree. So, here we can say default was also there on the part of plaintiff. So, if the plaintiff has himself done some act which led to that thing at the defendant's land to escape and cause damage to him, then the defendant will not be liable, as plaintiff is also contributing to that negligence, to that damage. For example, in the case of Ponting versus Knox, the same illustration, the defendant had grown some poisonous leaves in his land. The plaintiff's horse jumped off the boundaries of the defendant house and ate those poisonous leaves and died eventually. The plaintiff then approached the court claiming compensation as part of strict liability. But here in this case, the judge said that vegetation on the defendant's land did not spread to the plaintiff's land. It was the horse who jumped off the boundaries of the defendant horse, and plaintiff was negligent in taking care of that horse. So, plaintiff cannot claim any kind of compensation from the defendant. Then second exception is consent of the plaintiff. If the defendant is doing certain act, is bringing certain substance on his land with the consent of the plaintiff, and plaintiff has given his express or implicit consent to the existence of a source of harm, and there was no carelessness on the part of defendant, then again plaintiff cannot claim any kind of compensation from the defendant if any kind of damage is caused. In the case of Peters versus Prince of Wales Theatre, the defendant owned a theatre and rehearsal room. Plaintiff rented a shop on the same premises. The theatre had a water storage system for emergency fire control, and due to the severe frost, the water container burst and flooded the plaintiff shop also. That caused damage to the goods. Plaintiff sought compensation. Here the court held plaintiff had implicitly consented to the presence of water tank by agreeing to the rent space on the premises. Since the tank was a reasonable and necessary safety measure, the defendant was not held liable. The next exception is common benefit. This exception follows the principle again of voluntary non-fit injuria, where the defendant is consenting for the injury and he is also getting benefit from that thing. For example, if A and B are neighbors and share a water resource that is on the A's property. So, here if any kind of loss is caused to B because of that water resource, he cannot claim any kind of compensation from A just because that thing is there on the land of A, because here B is also getting benefits from that substance. For example, in the case of Box versus Jubb, the plaintiff who lived in the same multi-story building as the defendant had property damage as a result of defendant's reservoir overflowing, which was caused in part of defendant's action and in part by the neighboring reservoir owner's actions. The water reservoir were created with the common good of all the occupants of the multi-story building, both the plaintiff and the defendant in the mind. So, here again it was held as both parties were getting benefits from that water reservoir, defendant cannot be held liable. The next one is act of God. This is a general defense and it will fall majorly in all kind of liabilities. If an unforeseeable natural disaster causes the escape of a dangerous substance and result in damage, then defendant might not be held liable, as was held in the case of Nicholas versus Marsland. The next one is act of third person. Again, the defendant will not be accountable under this exception if the harm was caused by an act of a stranger who neither serves the defendant nor is subject to the defendant's control. And here the third party denotes a person who is neither the defendant's employees or bound by any kind of contract. So, as we can see in the case of Reliance versus Fletcher, defendant was made liable. Why? The act was done by independent contractor and their servants. So, can't this exception be made applicable in that particular situation, that act of third person was there, act of independent contractor was there, so defendant should not be made liable. So, here just a point is to be taken into consideration, not under the control of defendant. All things were done according to the instructions of the defendant in the case of Fletcher, and those things were done as per the instruction of the defendant. That is why defendant was made liable. So, to make application of this exception act of third person, this third person should not be connected in any way with the defendant. He should not be employee, he should not be under the control, under the direction or bound by any kind of contract. And the last one is statutory authority. If a particular act is done under authorization of law, then it will be considered as statutory authority and it is a complete defense in the case of strict liability. For example, in the case of Green versus Chalicia Waterworks, the defendant were required by law to keep a consistent supply of water available. It is by law. A few pipes broke naturally during the course of operation and without any negligence on the part of company, harming the plaintiff's premises thereby. He claimed damages, but the company was not held responsible by applying the defense of statutory authority because they were keeping that water supply because of the order of law. So, these are the 5 defenses that are available in strict liability. Number 1 is plaintiff's on default, then consent of plaintiff, statutory authority, act of God and act of third party. Now, as this concept was there, the rule of strict liability, then evolved in India the concept of absolute liability, and to summarize it, we can say absolute liability is as equal as that of strict liability but minus the exceptions. So, all the essentials of strict liability are there in the case of absolute liability, but 5 exceptions, 5 defenses that are available with the defendant in case of strict liability are not there in absolute liability. It is again a strict form of liability without any exceptions. It developed in India to deal with hazardous or inherently dangerous industries. In this rule, a person or enterprise that is engaged in such activities is absolutely liable to compensate for any kind of harm that is caused, irrespective of this fact that they were non-negligent. This case, this liability was formulated by Supreme Court of India in the case of MC Mehta versus Union of India in 1987 to strengthen the law beyond the traditional English principle of strict liability, as we have just discussed in the case of Reliance versus Fletcher. Essentials are same as that of strict liability. First one is engagement as hazardous or inherently dangerous activity, that is keeping any kind of dangerous substance on the land, like any kind of toxic substance in water in a very huge quantity, any chemical, fire and such kind of things. Then harm caused as a result of these activities. If any kind of damage is there because of these activities, then again it will be an essential of absolute liability. Then no need to prove negligence and no defense is allowed. This is the other essential other than that of strict liability. In strict liability, defenses were there, but in absolute liability, no defense is available with the defendant if they are keeping any hazardous substance, if that hazardous substance is causing any kind of damage. One more difference is there in strict liability and absolute liability is that of escape. In strict liability, escape should be there, but in absolute liability, harm should be there. So, escape is no more essential in case of absolute liability, and defenses are not allowed. Now, the question is, when we were having the concept of strict liability, why this concept of absolute liability evolved in India? So, the answer is, in today's context, when there is a rapid industrial growth that is increasing environmental risk, the rule of strict liability was inadequate. We all have heard about the case of Bhopal gas leak tragedy, and because of that case this rule of absolute liability evolved, because what was the judgment that was given in that case was considered as inadequate by applying the rule of strict liability. Because if some person is keeping hazardous thing on the land and that is causing damage to that person, and if he is abiding his liability by claiming the defenses that is available in strict liability, then what would be the defense, what would be the remedy that would be available with the aggrieved parties. So, that was the reason that was kept in mind, and the concept of absolute liability was evolved. In the country like India, which is considered as a developing country and having an economy that faces greater challenges in managing industrial hazards. Then strict liability again having too many restrictions, too many exceptions, that is unsuitable for protecting public health and environment. So, this rule was deleted, this rule was ignored, and new rule was evolved, that was the concept of absolute liability. Now, let us discuss the evolution of absolute liability. This was evolved in the case of MC Mehta versus Union of India. The fact of the case gone like this, that in the city of Delhi in 1985, this was a case which was considered as a case of oleum gas leak case. There was one industry, that is Shriram Food and Fertilizer Industries, where this gas leak happened. Oleum gas was leaked in the month of December, and one of an advocate got died because of that gas leak. Many PILs were filed, many litigations were filed in the courts of India. Then Apex Court then evolved the rule of absolute liability in spite of this fact that we were having the rule of strict liability, and stated that the defendant would be liable for the damage that is caused without considering the exceptions to the strict liability rule. Then meanwhile, Bhopal gas tragedy happened, and this rule, the rule of absolute liability that was given in the case of oleum gas case, that was upheld in the Bhopal gas tragedy, which took place between night of 2nd and 3rd December of 1984 because of the leakage of methyl isocyanide gas. Huge gas, tons of gas was leaked, which created a gas chamber around that Union Carbide Corporation, around that industry, and which caused more than 3,000, which takes away 3,000 lives of the people. There was very heavy loss to the property, flora and fauna of that area. A case was filed in the American New York District Court, as the Union Carbide Company in Bhopal was a branch of US based company. The case was dismissed because of no jurisdiction. Then Government of India enacted Bhopal Gas Disaster Act 1985 and sued the company for the damages on behalf of the victims. The court, applying the principle of absolute liability, held the company liable and ordered to pay compensation to the victims. Then this absolute liability was further reformed in the case of Indian Council for Environmental Legal Actions versus Union of India in 1986, and it reinforced polluters pay principle, according to which if an industry is polluting the environment, then they have to bear the losses for that pollution. And again a principle was involved that larger the pocket, larger the damages. So, quantum of damages is directly proportional to the finances of that industry. Then second case was of Vellore Citizens Welfare Forum versus Union of India. It is a case of 1996 which introduced the precautionary principle and sustainable development along with absolute liability. Then NGT was introduced in 2010 which consistently applied absolute liability in the case that involves industrial pollution, toxic waste leakage, environmental harm. And one of that case where NGT played a very crucial role was of Sterlite industrial case, LG polymer gas leak case that was happened in 2020, that is also known as Vizag gas leak case. And according to this case, while the interim order was there, strict liability was applied, but after the criticism, when the final judgment was given, the rule of absolute liability was adopted by NGT. Then Oleum Gas, after the scope of rule of strict absolute liability, Public Liability Insurance Act was introduced. The objective was to compensate the victim of the case where the hazardous substance or handling of the dangerous substance is involved. These are few differences between strict liability and absolute liability. That was given in the case of Reliant versus Fletcher, it was given in the case of MC Mehta. There is no need to prove negligence in both of the cases. Defenses are there in the case of strict liability but not in absolute liability. It applies, strict liability applies to the non-natural use of land, but it applies to the hazardous and inherently dangerous activities. In strict liability, duty can be delegated, but there is no delegation of duties in absolute liability. So, these are few differences between strict liability and absolute liability. That's all for this session. Thank you.